Hello and welcome back. So today we're talking about the Oracle in our WitchFire gun guide series. This is an incredible weapon. It has a really cool gimmick that it does, and honestly I feel like it's a contender for one of the most powerful guns in the game as we sit right now. So before we get into what it does and how it works, let's talk about where to find it. This one did take me a little while to find. So in the new map, in the sewers, right next to the boss room is that big open room. There's some rubble laying in there, there's a big pillar, and there's also a waterfall coming off of a staircase. If you go into that waterfall, there's a long hallway, you turn right, there's a secret room at the end, and it's just laying on a table. So as soon as you gain access to the new level, you can run over there and just grab it up. You may have to kill some of the mini bosses to grab some keys, but aside from that, it's just readily available. Now, I wanted to read the little tooltip up here, because this does, golly, I banged a desk hard. This does a good job of explaining what this gun is all about. So, built from the iron coffin of a seer exposed as a witch, her dying curse remains, guiding every bullet to those who believe walls will save them. Yeah, this thing, it just does not give a shit about anything that's in the way. The bullets will pierce walls, shields, and everything and hit your enemies. I say that. It doesn't seem to pierce those green knights that have the shields. It doesn't pierce their shields, but it does pierce some other ones. So let's talk about it. At Mysteria 1, killing enemies charges the scope, enabling sight and shots through walls. Each kill grants one powered shot. Now, I'm not sure if this gun is a little bit bugged at the moment or what's going on, but sometimes I'll notice that those shots stack. I can kill, 10 enemies that are just out in the open, and then I will have 10 powered shots through walls. And then other times, I'll kill a bunch of enemies, and then I'll only get like 1 or 2 shots through a wall. So I'm not entirely sure how it's supposed to work or in what direction it's bugged. But keep that in mind. I've noticed that usually, and also I'm pretty sure whenever you kill an enemy through a wall, that's supposed to also add a stack, and that doesn't always seem to be the case either. Now, I have noticed it's a little bit more consistent if you get headshots, even though it doesn't say anything about headshots. But that's just from what I've experienced, the time that I've used this gun. I've noticed that it's kind of inconsistent, and I'm not sure what's going on. Now, at Mysteria 2, scoped enemies are slowed. That doesn't happen immediately, I've noticed. You'll see a little effect attached to the enemy, kind of like a frost effect a little bit. It'll kind of go around the enemy and suck inside of them, and then you'll notice that they move about 50% slower. Really, really good for just making sure you land your shots, because this thing is very unforgiving if you miss. You don't have very many bullets in your mag, and you don't have much ammo in your pouch either. Now at Mysteria 3, looking through a scope without firing for a moment increases damage. I've noticed that that's probably about a second and a half of just staring through your scope. You'll notice that the scope outlines in yellow, and if you're looking through walls, the enemies are highlighted in red, and then after that comes into effect, they all turn yellow. And it seems to about double your damage. It's a huge bonus. And it's so much so that, like, the grenadier enemies, the big tanky ones, I've noticed that I'm able to pretty consistently two-shot them with headshots, as long as you're waiting for that. Now, there are some things to say about this. Most minor enemies, you don't need to wait for that. You'll one-shot them regardless. Elite enemies, you do want to wait for that so you're not expending an extra bullet on them. Like I said, you don't have much ammo. But when it comes to a boss fight, you're better off just unloading on the boss's face. I've tried it both ways, waiting for each bullet to charge, and then I've tried just unloading. It's way faster, way more simple, way less dangerous to just shoot them in the face. Alright, don't be waiting for that for the bosses. So, to get into what I like to pair with it, which is just like what we did for the Koshi. Somebody commented and told me how to say it and then forgot how to say it. Sorry about that. I think Cricket is an excellent secondary to run with this, mostly because it boosts your stamina and spell recharge, and you get a lot of bonuses for dashing, which is something that we'll be doing, and I'll explain that a little bit later. But yes, whenever you're staring through the scope on the Oracle, you're draining your stamina. The Cricket's really good at giving you your stamina back. Now, as far as light spells go, I haven't found anything that seems to really pair well. I've tried, I haven't tried all of them, but I've tried quite a few, and just, I don't find myself ever really needing a light spell. The heavy spell, on the other hand, I've really been enjoying Rotten Fiend. It takes aggro, allows you to take a little bit more time to land your shots. The only other one that has been extremely useful, only in boss fights, is Cornucopia, because you don't have to reload. You get 20 seconds of just unlimited ammo. It improves your handling stability, and you basically just unload your whole stash of ammo into a boss's face, and usually about 15 bullets and the boss is dead. So I've really been enjoying Rotten Fiend, but Cornucopia is an excellent second choice. Now, as far as relics go, there's a few good options. Book of Serpents could be nice just to kind of protect you more from enemies getting too close. Severed Ear is good for pushing those enemies back. Once again, Braid of Seductress, another defensive one, will freeze enemies that hit you. But if you want a more offensive option, really the only good one is Blood of a Banshee. It allows you to do, whenever you overkill an enemy, which means, say you did 200 damage, but it only takes 100 damage to kill that enemy, you have 100 damage of overkill. So whenever that happens, which it's a sniper rifle, it happens all the time, you'll see a big fire nova go off, it'll light all the other enemies on fire and do some damage. I guess there's an argument to be made for Painted Tooth, because it procs off of critical shots, except for the fact that most enemies are getting one shot. So the only ones that really don't are elites, and they get 2 shot. So I don't see Painted Tooth being all that useful. I guess it's good for bosses, but it only lights them on fire on the first shot. So after that initial shot and their burning's over, there's not much use for this. So yes, I don't think I Have a Madwoman or Curfane are pretty good, or any good for this gun. Curfane, you need to shoot a bunch to get the proc to go off. I Have a Madwoman needs enemies to be at 30% health, I believe, before it strikes. Well, you're either one-shotting the enemy or doing half of their health. So I don't really ever notice I going off. So for me, personally, Blood of a Banshee. Otherwise, I would probably just use like Book of Serpents or Severed Ear. Now, in your fetishes, there's no contesting Henbane. It's always going to be good. It's always going to be a great option. So if that's what you're running, just keep running that. It's an excellent option. But for this instance, I kind of liked Monk's Hood. You know, you're far enough away from most enemies and you're behind cover, so you're not getting hit that often. And Monk's Hood just makes it to where when enemies do get up to you, they're not doing any damage when they do hit you. So that's the only reason I went with Monk's Hood. Now, possibly the most important part of the build that runs sniper rifles is a way to upkeep your ammo. We have the Ring of Thorns. Dodging a melee attack with a dash freezes the attacker. Killing them before they thaw might create an ammo replenishing orb. This thing does a pretty excellent job of keeping you topped up or keeping at least some ammo in your back. Now, just to feel how good this is, you also get stamina regen, which while using a sniper is always nice. And then it recharges your light spell. But like I said, the light spells, take them or leave them. That's really up to you. I don't really notice myself using them that much. So that is the Oracle. Honestly, one of the most powerful guns they've added in a while. I definitely see this being in, the top 3 most OP weapons in the game, simply just because, enemies can't get to you, they can't shoot you because you're on the other side of a damn wall, and it does absurd damage. So if you enjoyed this gun, let me know. If you enjoyed the video, like and subscribe. If you didn't, then don't. Either way it goes though, have yourself a very fine day.